Hey guys, Dr. Sean, Recreated Health. Hey, we're talking about mold toxicity, but when we talk about mold, which so many people are suffering with, we're actually talking about the mycotoxins, which are the poisons that mold gives off within the body that are actually what are creating so much of the issue. So I want to go through a couple of things today that we need to talk about when it comes to how to deal with this issue and what might surprise you. I'm going to give you an example of my office, which has recently flooded, and I'm going to show you exactly how tricky mold can be. So when talking about the mycotoxins or the poisons from mold, which so many of us suffer with, there's a couple in particular that I see on most people's lab work, which is aflatoxin and ochratoxin. And there's two key things that these mycotoxins do within your body that are creating so many of the chronic issues that you suffer with, and you might not even realize it's due to exposure to mold. So number one thing that mycotoxins do is they damage the mitochondria within your body's cells. That's what actually produces the ATP, or your body's energy. And without that, your body cannot function and heal. Now, the second thing that mycotoxins do is they suppress or they weaken your immune response. So when you have a lack of mitochondria or ATP being produced and you have a weakened immune response, so many things result. This is why for some of you, you're tired all the time. It's why you have brain fog or you have word recall issue. It's also the reason that no matter how much you sleep, you're always tired. Now, the longer you have mycotoxicity within the body, you're going to get into more chronic conditions. And this is where you're going to have recurring infections. Remember, your body doesn't have the mitochondria production or the ATP or the energy to fight infections, but you also don't have the immune response to do that. So you're going to have recurring issues with things like Epstein-Barr virus. You're going to have issues with Lyme's disease. You're going to have issues with parasites and bacteria. You're going to have recurring yeast infections. For those of you who have recurring issues with yeast or fungus, that could be an issue with vaginal yeast. It could be white tongue. It could be, issues with fungus on your toenails. You likely have a mycotoxin or a mold issue and an exposure. So long-term, the concern with mycotoxins that aren't detoxed from the body, this is where we get into the autoimmune diseases, things like autoimmune thyroid, Hashimoto's. You have issues with Parkinson's, with MS, with dementia or Alzheimer's, and even things like cancer. So if you have a risk of mold or mycotoxins, I'm going to show you the risk that we now have in our office, and you might just be surprised how many people are battling this and don't even realize it. So I'm going to show you, recently we had a flood in our office. We had a pipe burst in the ceiling. We had 2 to 3 inches across every square foot of our building. And this was something I caught within about 5 hours of the burst pipe occurring. But even in just those few hours of finding it and then having a crew in here to dry it up, we already had mold exposure. So I want to show you what that looks like. And we're going to start with my office right here. So here we're taking a look at the base of the wall in my office. Now understand that when this first occurred, they came in within a couple of hours of the water starting to flood the building and had everything vacuumed out. They had dehumidifiers going, fans blowing. They pulled off the bottom trim in here. And here was the comment that they made is, once everything is dry, there's no risk of mold, because that was my biggest concern. But I'm going to show you how, even though in your house or your workplace, you can have a wall that looks perfectly clean, like there's not a single trace of any kind of water damage or mold. And oftentimes people are painting things with kills to cover it up. That doesn't mean the mold's not there. We're going to take a look at the other side of this wall, and you'll see that there's actually already mold growth within just a few hours of exposure. Let's go take a look. So here we are on the back side of my office wall. This is in the break room, and this is important because for a lot of you who are battling mold or mycotoxin risks, water exposure within your home or workplace, this is the important step that needs to be done. We literally had to take out the cabinets in this room and open up the drywall and expose this wall, because take a look. What do you see? There's already water damage and mold exposure. Literally, there's mold growing on this drywall on the backside. And remember, this is within about 6 hours of it happening. It was already getting dried out. For some of you in your workplace or your home, there's been water dripping. There's been a leaky roof or a leaky pipe, potentially for months or years, right? So understand that even with this little bit of exposure, we now have to go around. We've opened up the base of the walls throughout the whole office on one side. We're going around and we're neutralizing all of that growth. Now, how do we do that? We don't do that with bleach, right? We can't kill it with bleach. Literally, my buddy Francesco Calero with Fresh Start Environmental has got a product that we're going to be using for our space that's literally going to neutralize all of those mycotoxins. So it will stop it dead in its track, because just drying out the environment isn't enough. We literally have to treat this, because if not, here's what happens. Even if they close those walls back up, seal it all up, put all the drywall back in place, all the cabinets in place, those mycotoxins will still be in circulation, and my whole team is going to be exposed to that from this point on in this environment, which means if I'm trying to detox and heal, we're going to be continuously re-exposed. So it's going to really slow down our ability to heal. So for more videos like this, click subscribe, ring that bell so that you get notified every time we come up with a new idea. We'll share that with you. And if you have concerns or questions about mold exposure, how do you clean that out of your body? How do you, help your environment if that's within your home? Click the links below this video. We'll get you more information.